have to tell you, people have been kind of blown away today by the turnout. There are thousands of people, not just crowded here on the steps of the New York Public Library, but all down Fifth Avenue. They're about to start making their way downtown, marching toward Madison Square Park. And these are people of all backgrounds. I have spoken to veterans who served our military for decades who are outraged. I have spoken to people who say they've never shown up to a protest before, but they're disgusted by the imagery that they've seen coming out of Los Angeles, the aggressive immigration enforcement they've seen across the country, families that have been torn apart. This is really a broad coalition of people, from immigrant activists and organizers who've been doing this work for a long time to people who are very much brand new to this. But Stephanie, I want to introduce you to one person who's here with us and is speaking out today. Mark Ruffalo, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me.
So why does this matter? Why are people out here getting soaked in the rain to send a message?
Because we see our democracies in real trouble. We see a president who has made himself a king and dictator, and we don't see an opposition that's powerful enough to stand up against the trampling of our rights and the trampling of the Constitution that's happening every single day with executive orders, with the refusal to obey court orders, kidnapping of immigrants, people who are here legally, people who their children are being taken from them. We're disgusted and we're scared, and we know that the only way that to fight this now is for the people, is to come together.
Do you think what we've seen out of Los Angeles and all the workplace raids we've seen in recent days, do you think that's changed something in people? You've been doing this work for a long time,
yes,
but I've met a lot of people today who have never done this before.
The blessing of these kinds of moments for any group of people is that it opens your eyes. It forces you out of your comfort zone. It makes you appreciate the things that we have, that we cherish, that we love. And those things are each other. Those things are our communities. Those things are the people that make this incredible experiment in democracy work. That's what we get to earn from these terrible times. Trump is trying to take our freedoms away, so we have to be reminded of what those freedoms actually are.
What do you think it's going to be like for people to experience this parade in D.C. tonight? What message is it sending to Americans to see their military used in this way?
It's a message that this president does not care about any of our founding fathers' principles. One of the reasons we separated the military from the executive branch was because we were leaving countries where dictators were using the military against the people. We're seeing it already happening in California. It is sending a message to the American people that the Constitution means nothing, and it's spitting, literally spitting on our military members and the history of this country, which has been to fight fascism and dictatorship throughout the world.
Do you think this is just the beginning of a movement here?
This is only the beginning. This is an awakening of democracy. It's a reimagining of what this country means to people, what it should mean. They're pointing the guns in the wrong direction. It's not the immigrants who are taking anything. It's not that there isn't enough for everyone in this country. It's that there's a few very, 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 very wealthy, powerful people who are taking too much. It's the billionaires and it's the people in power that are taking from the American people, which is leaving us feeling desperate. This is the answer to that. This is the reimagination of America and the reestablishment of our democratic principles.
One of the questions I get all the time, and I know Steph gets all the time as a reporter, is, well, how do we really know if we're at the precipice? When do we know that normalization has creeped in? How do you wake up and know authoritarianism is here?
When a U.S. senator is tackled by questioning the head of Homeland Security in a press conference. Okay, we're not in the halls of Congress now. We're in a press conference for the American people. When a U.S. senator is tackled in a press conference representing his constituency with a question to the Homeland Security who has invaded that state with a military presence, you know you're heading towards dictatorship. That's a turning point. you're only going to see more of that happen. This administration will continue to overreach, and this will be the response. We're not going away. We're not going to be quiet. We love each other, and we realize that we love this country so much that we're leaving our homes today in the rain to express our friendship and love for the people here who made this place. And unless you're a Native American or a Mexican, you're an immigrant.
Mark,
we made this place.
Thank you so much. I know you've been dying.
So a split screen is your jam.
Yes.
Set this up for us. What is tomorrow going to look like for the United States of America?
It's not going to feel like America to any reasonable person who remembers whatever vision of America they were sold. All of this feels, and I think autocratic is maybe not even cutting through enough anymore. And I'll use a term that is sort of out of vogue, but I think maybe resonates. It feels third world. All of this, military parades, plus secret police disappearing people, all of this layered with what we'll get to, I'm sure, when it comes to, you know, just the prospect of World War III. All of it feels like whatever version of America you wanted, this cannot possibly be it if you're being honest with what you signed up for when it came to patriotism. This is so deeply self-centric. The birthday salute. It's so deeply undemocratic what's happening in LA with all of the obvious motives involved. Yeah, it's embarrassing stuff.
Well, let's talk about No King's Day. What has to happen, Anthony, for these protests to make an impact? How do they carry the momentum past this weekend? And by impact, I mean a positive impact for the protesters to consider it a success, not an impact that is going to be a disastrous conflict between the administration and the protesters.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just got to keep their eye on the ball. Like,
what is the ball?
Well, I think the ball is resistance to the, you know, king-like behavior that the president is exhibiting right now, like secret police raiding, you know, schools, and we've even just saw today for the first time a U.S. Marine detaining a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil. Those kind of images are going to last. They're going to resonate. Resistance to those images, unified resistance, you know, law-abiding unified resistance is something that I think can resonate past this weekend. But the ball is, you know, the thing that they're specifically saying that they're in opposition to, like, don't try to make the tent any smaller. Don't try to have purity tests among the activists. Just, you know, be unified.
Colonel Jack, New York Times Pentagon correspondent said retired military officials are worried that tomorrow we could have a Tiananmen Square moment. You know, one single protester standing in front of a tank. What is your reaction to this?
Well, it's always possible. You know, you've got a country of 347 million people. The law of large numbers says that there's always the possibility that one or more of them are going to do something exactly like that. The thing about you're talking about the parade. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the military. I spent a lot of time in parades myself. And full disclosure, I hate parades.
Why?
I hate parades. You're standing out there you got to practice forever, right? You're standing out there for a long period of time, either in the baking sun or what may be tomorrow, the pouring rain, to the aggrandizement of some high-ranking guy. And at the end of the day, you're taking time away from training to close with the enemy, to kill or capture him, which is what your job ought to be. And for an administration that prides itself on turning the military into a lean, mean fighting machine, spending any amount of time on a parade field is absolute nonsense.
The Guardian is reporting that some members of the military who are participating in the parade feel like pawns. They're not happy to be there. They're almost embarrassed, especially when you consider what's happening overseas. And we have men and women defending our country overseas.
Yeah, we have a lot of things to do. All of them are important, and the least important of all of them is being in a parade. And yes, I've spoken to a lot of people in the chain of command who are terribly concerned about the use of the military in this kind of environment for this kind of purpose. They think it's extremely dangerous, but more dangerous than just taking time away from doing important things like training. It's possible that it begins to instill in the rank and file the notion that this is the proper use of the military instrument of power for the aggrandizement of one person, no matter what it's purported to be. And the danger is that this will feed on itself and ultimately become the thing that we ought to do with our military establishment rather than training them to defeat our enemies. Very, very dangerous. And if you talk to people in the chain of command, they'll tell you exactly that.
A waste of time, but what about, Steve, a colossal waste of money? Over $100 million, right? This parade is costing taxpayers, right? How are we supposed to take DOGE seriously when this administration is about cutting government waste, and we're going to spend over $100 million, right? We're firing tens of thousands of government workers just doing their jobs, but we're going to spend money on this. What's the rationale there?
It depends on how you want to take DOGE seriously as a manifestation of the administration's policies to essentially
Take it at its face value.
Reduce services for poor people and low-income people. Yes, it's very serious, and they're very good at that, apparently. But in terms of wasting money on all kinds of things like parades or sending the president to golf in Mar-a-Lago every other weekend or every weekend maybe, it's a very difficult contradiction to stomach. What worries me more, what the colonel was talking about, though, is this notion of further ingraining militarism into the psyche of Americans and what and who we are. I was in Russia for 6 years. And we all saw the parades that they had, and that was Russia. And I will never forget that when the Soviet Union fell, the first statue they put up was to General Zhukov.
There are so many former Trump staffers, and many of them left on their own volition much earlier than they should have, or maybe often do, or they were fired for refusing to do what Trump wanted to do. The reason why, guys, is because of moments like today. The totalitarian flavor of it all, the excess of it all, the ego of it all, the fact that even if you support Trump's project, like, how many hours were wasted on this that could have been spent advancing your evil right-wing causes? Like, let's say you're a DeSantis type person. It's like, man, Donald, you spent how many hours on this? We could have been banning the rights of another person. Like, I know that sounds crazy. We obviously don't support that. But it's like, from the right, from the left, from the center, from any perspective, social, economic, constitutional, you can look at this event and hate it. Right? And there's really only one way to look at it and not hate it, and that's from Trump's direction, and only his. So you want to know why so many people have quit on Trump? Look to days like this. Because again, quitting on Trump, it wasn't always just purely ideological. Yes, it was usually more moderate Republicans getting out while they could. And I'm not trying to excuse those people. But you had people from the right quit when Trump just had no policy consistency. Right? Or was just, spending political capital in a way that made achieving their goals more difficult. Because you spend time on a dumb parade, and you spend time on your whatever coin you're selling to somebody, and not on actually doing your job.